My hands were shaking as I watched the video for the third time, my mind refusing to believe what I was seeing. There was my car, rocking back and forth in the empty parking lot. Inside, shadows moved, and I strained to make sense of it. Then the camera zoomed in, and I felt my stomach drop to the floor. Laura, my wife, was in the back seat, straddling some scruffy guy, her hands tangled in his greasy hair, her lips on his neck. She laughed, God, that laugh, the same one she used to give me when we were just two dumb kids falling in love. Now it was twisted into something vile, mocking everything we had. A noise behind me made me almost drop the phone. I whipped around to see Laura walking through the front door, humming softly, bags of groceries in her hands. My pulse pounded so loudly I could hardly hear her greeting. I barely managed to mumble something back. "What's wrong?" she asked, noticing my pale face. I couldn't look at her. Not after what I just saw. Not after seeing my car, our car, turned into some sleazy motel room for her, and that dirtbag. I forced a smile, heart thundering like a war drum. "Nothing. Just tired," I replied, barely keeping the bile down. She smiled back, the same sweet smile that now made my skin crawl. She put the groceries on the counter and kissed me on the cheek. I almost flinched. My mind was racing, but I couldn't blow up yet. I needed more proof, more than just a blurry video and a gut feeling. Who sent it to me? Why? Was it some twisted joke, or was it real? The timestamp didn't lie, yesterday afternoon. I was at work, and she was supposed to be visiting her mom. I needed to play it cool, but my heart was on fire. I couldn't just sit around while she lied to my face. I knew one thing, she wasn't going to get away with this. Whatever it took, I was going to find out the truth. I didn't sleep that night. Laura was next to me, breathing softly, completely oblivious to the war raging inside me. My mind was spinning, replaying the video over and over. I kept glancing at her, half hoping she'd give herself away in her sleep, maybe mutter his name or show some hint of guilt. But nothing. She just lay there, peaceful and content, while my world was burning to ashes. At dawn, I couldn't take it anymore. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her, and headed to the garage where my car was parked. I needed to see it again, to confront that place where my wife had betrayed me. The sun was barely peeking over the rooftops, casting long shadows across the driveway. I pulled open the car door and just stared at the back seat. I felt nauseous just looking at it. The upholstery was a mess, wrinkled, a stray earring glinting in the morning light. Not Laura's. It looked cheap, tacky, definitely not something she would wear. I picked it up like it was toxic, holding it between my fingers as if it could somehow tell me why. Why would she do this to me? To us? As I moved to put it down, I caught a faint smell, a mix of sweat and cheap cologne, mingled with the faint traces of Laura's perfume. The bile rose in my throat again, but I forced it down. I had to think straight. Losing my mind wouldn't get me answers. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I almost jumped out of my skin. It was a text from Laura. "Morning, babe. You up?" I stared at it, fingers trembling, and finally forced myself to reply. "Yeah, just getting some air." 3 dots appeared, she was typing. Then another message. "Everything okay? You were restless last night." "Sure," I thought bitterly. "Restless because I found out you've been screwing some lowlife in my car." I typed back. "Just work stress. I'll be fine." She replied with a little heart emoji, and I nearly crushed my phone in my fist. How could she act so normal after what she did? Was she that good at lying? Or did she just not care? I decided to check her phone again, but this time I wasn't going to be careless about it. I went back inside, trying to look casual as I walked past her making breakfast. She gave me a bright smile, flipping pancakes like it was just another Saturday morning. I forced a weak smile back. "Hungry?" she asked, and I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "You look exhausted," she said, putting a plate in front of me. "Rough night?" I swallowed down the anger boiling inside me. "Yeah, didn't sleep much." She gave me that sympathetic look, rubbing my shoulder like she actually cared. I almost pushed her hand away, but I had to keep playing it cool. I couldn't afford to tip her off. Not yet. While she was busy with breakfast, I quietly slipped her phone out of her purse and took it to the bathroom. Locking the door behind me, I scrolled through her messages again. That same chat with Bethany stared back at me. This time, I read deeper, scrolling up to see the earlier conversations. They were talking about meeting again, something about Friday night, and wear that black jacket I like. The guy must have been using a fake name, or maybe even a burner phone. Clever, but not clever enough. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my own phone. I knew I'd need it all later when the time came to confront her. After wiping the evidence from her phone, I slipped it back into her bag. My mind was spinning with anger and heartbreak. Why? Why go to such lengths to cover it up? Why not just tell me if she was unhappy? I stepped out of the bathroom, plastering on a smile, and joined her at the table. She was scrolling through her own phone now, probably texting that dirtbag. I fought the urge to snatch it away from her and demand answers. So, I said casually, "You going to your mom's today?" She nodded. "Yeah, she's been feeling lonely lately." Thought I'd cheer her up. The lie slid out so smoothly that I almost doubted myself. Almost. "You want me to come with you?" I asked, testing her reaction. She hesitated, just for a split second, before shaking her head. "No, it's fine. You've got work to catch up on, right? Besides, she's been wanting some girl time." Another lie. It was like watching a master at work, effortless, seamless, without a trace of guilt. It made my stomach churn. I forced a smile. "Yeah, you're right. I've got some stuff to do." She leaned over and kissed my cheek before gathering her things. As she walked out the door, I glanced at the time. If she was meeting him again, I wasn't going to sit at home like a fool. I followed her, keeping my distance as she drove away. My heart pounded as I watched her car take a familiar turn. Not to her mom's place. I knew it. She drove to that same secluded parking lot where the video had been recorded. I parked a safe distance away and watched as she got out, glancing around nervously before a dark sedan pulled up beside her. My fists clenched on the steering wheel as that same scruffy guy from the video climbed out and wrapped his arms around her. She melted into him like he was the love of her life. I snapped a few photos with my phone, just to have more proof. Then I watched as they climbed into his car this time, disappearing from view as the windows fogged up. My mind was numb. I didn't know whether to confront them right then and there or wait and catch her in a more vulnerable moment. I needed to hit her where it hurt, the same way she'd hit me. A plan started forming in my mind. I wasn't going to let this slide. I wasn't going to be that pathetic guy who just forgives and moves on. Laura had made her bed, and it was time for her to lie in it. I drove back home, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind was a storm of fury and betrayal, but I forced myself to think straight. Confronting them right then, and there would have been too easy, too impulsive. No, I needed to be smarter. Laura wasn't just going to walk away from this like it was some minor mistake. I needed to hit her where it hurt. Once I was home, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone with those screenshots and that cursed video still saved. My mind was buzzing with ideas, but one stood out among the chaos. I needed undeniable proof and witnesses. Laura wasn't just going to talk her way out of this. She'd probably try to gaslight me, twist the story around, and make me look like the paranoid husband. I knew her too well. She'd try to manipulate me, make me doubt what I saw. First, I needed to secure all the evidence. I copied the video and screenshots to a secure cloud folder and backed them up on a USB drive just in case. Then I set up a hidden camera in the garage, pointing right at the car. If they used it again, I'd catch them red-handed. But I couldn't stop there. I needed more than just car footage. I remembered that Laura's phone was synced with her laptop. She'd always been careless with her devices, assuming I never bothered with her tech stuff. I rummaged through the office and found her laptop on the desk. As I powered it on, my heart pounded like a drum. The password was simple, our wedding date. A twisted irony that made my chest ache. Once inside, I navigated to her messaging apps and email. The laptop mirrored her phone perfectly, same fake Bethany contact, same flirtatious messages. I kept digging and found something worse, emails from a new private account. She hadn't even bothered to hide it properly, just logged into the browser without thinking I'd ever check. The emails were all from a guy named Travis. That must be him, the tattooed dirtbag from the video. I scanned through the messages, stomach churning as I read his sick, possessive words. "Can't wait to see you again, babe. Last time was wild. We should take it to that beach spot next. Hope your loser husband doesn't find out. You're mine now." I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. My pulse was pounding in my ears as I fought the urge to smash the laptop. This wasn't just a fling, it was an ongoing thing, and she was leading a double life right under my nose. I couldn't stop scrolling, scanning every vile message and attachment. There were pictures too, selfies of them together, kissing in public, hanging out at places we used to go as a couple. My stomach twisted at the thought of her parading around town with him while I was working my ass off to support us. One email in particular caught my eye. It was sent just last week. "Travis, I can't do this anymore. Dave's getting suspicious. I feel like he's starting to notice. We have to be more careful. He'd reply just an hour later. Who cares what he thinks? You know he's too dumb to figure it out. You're mine, Laura. Stop worrying about him. Dumb. Too dumb to figure it out. My hand shook, not from fear or sadness anymore, but from pure, unfiltered rage. I knew what I had to do. I spent the next hour setting up the laptop to record the screen whenever it was on. Then I checked her social media accounts, nothing but our happy couple photos and sickening captions about how much she loved me. I felt like a clown, a complete idiot being paraded around as the faithful, doting husband while she played me for a fool. My plan was forming clearly now. I needed a setup, something to expose her in a way she couldn't deny or twist. I needed witnesses, people who would see her for the lying, cheating snake she was. I thought about calling her best friend, Amanda. She'd been my friend too for years, and if anyone would be honest with me, it would be her. But would she take my side? Would she even believe me? I decided against it, at least for now. Amanda was too unpredictable, and if Laura got wind of what I was doing, she'd just change tactics. I needed to confront her directly, but only when I had her completely cornered. My mind was racing, trying to anticipate her reactions. Laura was sharp, manipulative. She'd find a way to twist the blame onto me if I wasn't careful. I needed to keep my calm, stay level-headed, and hit her where it hurt most. That's when the idea hit me, her family. Laura was fiercely protective of her reputation with her parents. If they found out what she was doing, she'd be humiliated. I didn't want to involve them at first, but the thought of her facing the shame made it too tempting to pass up. I grabbed my phone and made a quick call to her mom, pretending I was planning a surprise for Laura's birthday. Her mom was delighted, giving me all the details about their next family dinner. Perfect. That would be the place. I'd confront her in front of her parents, in front of the people she tried so hard to impress. I'd expose her for who she truly was, a liar, a cheater, a complete fraud. Before I could second-guess myself, I texted Amanda, pretending like I needed her help planning the surprise too. If I could get a few of Laura's closest friends there, it would be even better. She wouldn't be able to manipulate her way out of this one. Just as I finished sending the texts, I heard the front door open. Laura was back, humming as she walked through the hallway. I shut the laptop, forcing a casual smile as she appeared in the doorway. Hey babe, she greeted, kissing my cheek. Hey, I replied, trying to sound normal. How was your mom's? She hesitated just a fraction of a second, but it was enough for me to catch. Good. We just chatted and watched some movies. I nodded, hiding the disgust crawling up my spine. Sounds nice. I was thinking, maybe we should have dinner with your parents next weekend. Been a while since we all got together. She hesitated again, I shifting for just a second. Yeah, that sounds good. Perfect. She had no idea what was coming. As she moved to the kitchen to put away groceries, I felt a grim satisfaction settle in. The trap was set, and when the moment came, I was going to make sure she never forgot what betrayal really felt like. The next few days felt like walking on broken glass. I had to act normal, pretend everything was fine, while every fiber of my being screamed to confront her right then and there. Laura went about her usual routine, completely unaware of what I was planning. I couldn't stand the way she smiled at me, the way she kissed me goodnight like nothing was wrong. It made me sick. Meanwhile, I was busy preparing for the big reveal. I texted Amanda again, telling her I wanted to surprise Laura with a little get-together at her parents' place. Amanda, always enthusiastic about anything social, agreed to help. I made sure she invited a few more of Laura's close friends, people who mattered to her, people she'd hate to disappoint. When the day finally arrived, I barely managed to keep my nerves in check. I watched Laura dress up, putting on that emerald green dress I'd always loved. I couldn't help but think how ironic it was. She looked stunning, flawless, like the woman I fell in love with years ago. It hurt to realize how far we'd fallen from those days. On the drive to her parents' house, I kept my jaw clenched to keep from blurting out everything right there in the car. Laura chatted about mundane things, work, a new coffee shop she wanted to try, how her mom was probably going to overcook the roast again. It was like nothing had changed, like we were still that happy couple everyone envied. As we pulled up to her parents' house, I noticed the familiar cars parked along the curb, Amanda's little hatchback, her dad's old Chevy, even a few friends from our neighborhood. Perfect. Everyone was here. Laura looked at me suspiciously as I smiled, trying to hide my anticipation. What's going on? She asked, narrowing her eyes. I shrugged, forcing nonchalance. Just thought it'd be nice to have a little dinner with family and friends. You know, like old times. She smiled, a bit uneasy. Good. Let her feel that doubt. As we walked into the house, everyone greeted us cheerfully, and Laura put on her usual charming act, laughing and hugging people like nothing was wrong. I kept a polite smile on my face, but underneath, I was burning. When her dad gave me a firm handshake and patted my shoulder, I almost lost it. He'd always treated me like a son, and the idea of breaking his heart tonight made my chest ache. But it had to be done. Dinner was painfully slow. Conversations floated around, work stories, old memories, plans for the summer. I barely tasted the food, just kept glancing at Laura, wondering how she could sit there so calmly. Did she feel any guilt at all? Did she know I was onto her? My phone buzzed in my pocket. Amanda. Everything okay? You look tense. I shot back a quick text. Just waiting for the right moment. Finally, when everyone was settled with dessert and coffee, I cleared my throat and stood up. Hey, everyone, I started, trying to keep my voice steady. I just wanted to say a few words. Laura and I have been together for a long time, and we've shared so many amazing moments. But sometimes, things happen that you never see coming. Laura's eyes widened just a fraction, but she kept her fake smile plastered on her face. I continued, locking my gaze onto hers. Sometimes, the person you trust most ends up being the one who betrays you the deepest. A tense silence fell over the room. Amanda looked at me with confusion, while Laura's mother exchanged glances with her husband, clearly puzzled. Laura forced a laugh. What are you talking about, Dave? She said, trying to sound amused. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. I'm talking about betrayal, Laura. About lies and secrets. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? She hesitated, eyes darting around the room. Babe, you're being weird. What's going on? I didn't answer. Instead, I tapped on the video and hit play. The room filled with the sounds of heavy breathing and laughter, her laughter, mixed with the unmistakable rocking of my car in the video. I watched her face go pale as everyone else gasped in shock. Her father looked like he was going to pass out, while Amanda covered her mouth in horror. Laura's mom started crying, and I saw a few friends awkwardly looking away, clearly uncomfortable. Laura stood up, reaching for my phone. Dave, please, let me explain now. I yanked my hand back, fury boiling over. Explain what, Laura? How you've been sneaking around with some dirtbag behind my back? Or how you've been lying to everyone here, pretending to be the perfect wife? Tears welled in her eyes, but I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. It's not what it looks like, she stammered, her voice shaking. Really? I shot back. Because it looks like you've been screwing some loser in my car while I was at work. Or did I misunderstand that too? Her dad stood up, his face red with anger. Laura, what the hell is going on? He demanded. She broke down, sobbing into her hands. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was just a mistake. I scoffed, feeling my anger hit its peak. A mistake? One time is a mistake, Laura. But I've seen the messages. I know it's been going on for months. You thought I was too stupid to notice, didn't you? Amanda shot her a look of utter disgust. I can't believe you, Laura. After everything Dave's done for you. Laura looked around desperately, realizing she was completely cornered. He didn't mean anything. It was just. I was lonely, okay? You're always working, and I needed someone. I shook my head, barely keeping it together. You needed someone? I've been busting my ass to support us, to build a life for us. And this is how you repay me? Her dad looked like he could barely contain his rage. Pack your things, Laura. You're not staying here tonight. Laura's mother sobbed quietly as Amanda stood up and pulled me into a hug. I barely registered it, still staring at Laura's pathetic, broken figure on the floor. I didn't feel satisfaction. Just a hollow emptiness where my heart used to be. You can keep lying and making excuses, I said finally, voice ice cold. But you can't take back what you did. You ruined everything. We're done. Without another word, I turned and walked out, my heart heavy and shattered, but knowing I'd just taken the first step toward freeing myself from the wreckage she created. The cold night air hit me like a slap as I stepped outside. My hands were still shaking from the confrontation, and my head was spinning with a mix of anger and heartbreak. I fumbled for my car keys, just needing to get away from the suffocating mess inside that house. As I climbed into the driver's seat, I couldn't help but replay Laura's stunned, panicked face over and over in my mind. I'd been bracing myself for her to throw a fit or start yelling, but she just crumbled, sobbing like a broken child. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. I couldn't let myself break down yet. Not here. Not when there was so much left to sort out. My phone buzzed with a new message, and I glanced at the screen. Amanda. You okay? I'm so sorry. Call me when you can. I couldn't respond. Not yet. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just needed some time to process the explosion I just set off. As I gripped the steering wheel, my mind kept flashing back to how everyone looked at Laura, the disgust, the betrayal on their faces. Her father's anger was palpable, like a physical force in the room. I didn't have a plan for what came next. Divorce? Definitely. There was no going back after what she did. I knew I'd never trust her again, not even if she got down on her knees and begged. My heart clenched at the thought. 5 years of marriage flushed down the drain because she couldn't control herself. I drove around aimlessly, the empty streets of the neighborhood blurring past. The city lights glowed softly against the night sky, mocking me with their peacefulness. How had everything fallen apart so quickly? How did I not see it coming? I felt stupid, beyond stupid. How many times had she lied right to my face while I just smiled and believed her? My phone rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. Amanda again. I hesitated before picking up, not sure if I was ready to talk. Hey, I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. Oh my God, Dave. Are you okay? I can't believe what just happened. I'm still in shock. Yeah, I muttered, rubbing my temples. Me too. She hesitated, her voice softer now. We're all here, just trying to wrap our heads around it. Laura's still crying in the living room. Her dad's fuming. I've never seen him that mad before. Good, I replied bitterly. She deserves it. Amanda sighed, sympathy clear in her tone. I can't believe she did this to you. None of us saw it coming. I mean, she always talked about how much she loved you. What the hell happened? I scoffed. Guess she loved that dirtbag more. There was a pause, and I heard muffled voices in the background. She's trying to explain herself, Amanda said, sounding annoyed. Saying she was lonely and you weren't around enough. But that's bullshit, Dave. You did everything for her. I swallowed hard, trying to keep the bitterness from choking me. She just needed an excuse. Doesn't matter what she says now. It's over. Amanda hesitated again, her voice dropping lower. Listen, if you need a place to crash tonight, my couch is yours. I don't think you should go back home. Not right now. I hesitated. The thought of walking into our house, our bed, made me sick to my stomach. Yeah, that might be best. I'll head over. Okay, she said gently. I'll make up the couch. Just take your time. I hung up and sat there for a minute, just trying to gather my thoughts. Anger still simmered under my skin, but the overwhelming sadness was creeping in. How could she throw away everything we built? I thought we were happy. I thought we were solid. Guess I was just a blind fool. As I drove to Amanda's place, memories flooded my mind, good ones, bad ones, everything in between. Our first apartment, struggling to pay rent while we shared dollar burgers and laughed at how broke we were. The first time I saw her in that emerald dress. The night I proposed, kneeling in the snow with a ring I saved up for months to buy. How did it all lead to this? When I arrived, Amanda was waiting on the porch, arms folded, looking worried. She walked up to the car before I even had a chance to get out. Hey, she said softly, giving me a sad smile. You look like hell. Feel like it too, I admitted. She hugged me tightly, and for the first time since I saw that video, I felt something crack inside me. I buried my face in her shoulder, and before I knew it, the tears came. Silent, bitter tears of loss and betrayal. Amanda didn't say anything, just held me like she knew I needed it. When I finally pulled myself together, we went inside. The place smelled like cinnamon candles, and it felt warmer than my own house ever did. Amanda brought me a beer, and we sat on the couch in silence for a while. I'm sorry, Dave, she said finally, her eyes full of regret. She didn't deserve you. I forced a weak smile. Guess I didn't deserve this either. She shook her head, her jaw clenching. You didn't. She's a damn fool. You've always been good to her, better than most guys would be. I looked at her, really looked at her. Amanda had always been there, through every fight, every celebration. She never judged me or made me feel like less. Just a solid, reliable friend who never flaked when things got rough. Thanks for being here, I said quietly. She smiled back, that familiar warmth in her eyes. Of course. You don't have to go through this alone. We sat in silence, sipping our beers, while the reality of my new life started to sink in. I wasn't married anymore, at least not in my heart. That chapter was closed, torn out, burned to ashes. Now I just had to figure out how to move forward, how to rebuild when everything I trusted was shattered. One thing was clear. I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I'd take my time, heal, and when I was ready, I'd come out stronger. Laura could live with the consequences of her betrayal. I wasn't going to be the one left broken. The next morning, I woke up on Amanda's couch, wrapped in a warm throw blanket. My back ached from the cramped position, but it was nothing compared to the ache in my chest. For a moment, I forgot where I was, just staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together why I felt so hollow. Then it hit me all over again. Laura. The betrayal. The way her face twisted into that pitiful mask of regret when I played the video in front of everyone. I sat up slowly, rubbing my eyes. My phone was buzzing with notifications, texts, and missed calls from Laura. I couldn't bring myself to look at them yet. Instead, I dragged myself to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face, trying to feel something other than rage and exhaustion. As I made my way back to the living room, Amanda was already in the kitchen, making coffee. She looked over her shoulder and gave me a tired smile. "Morning," she said softly. "You sleep at all?" "A little," I muttered, rubbing my face. "Thanks for letting me crash here." "You know you're always welcome," she replied, pouring me a cup. "Figured you might need something stronger, but caffeine's a start." I forced a chuckle. "Yeah, stronger might be good later." Amanda joined me on the couch, and we sat there in silence for a few minutes, just sipping our coffee. The tension from last night still hung in the air, and I could see the concern in her eyes. So she started cautiously, "What's the plan?" I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. "I guess, divorce. There's no coming back from this. I can't pretend it didn't happen." She nodded. "You're right. You shouldn't. What she did, it's unforgivable." "Yeah," I whispered, my throat tightening. "But it still hurts like hell." Amanda put her hand on mine, squeezing gently. "You don't have to pretend you're okay. It's okay to feel like crap. She didn't just break your heart, she ripped your entire life apart." My jaw clenched. "I just don't get it, you know? We were supposed to be a team. I did everything for her. Worked long hours, made sure we were comfortable. I thought we were happy." Amanda's eyes softened. "You gave her your all? That's not your fault. She's the one who decided to throw it all away." I pulled out my phone, finally gathering the nerve to check the messages. There were dozens from Laura. "Dave, please talk to me. I'm so sorry. I was stupid. It didn't mean anything. Please don't leave me. Let's talk. I'll explain everything." "You're not answering. Are you okay? I love you. Please." I gritted my teeth. Love? Now she wanted to talk about love? After everything? Amanda glanced at my phone, reading some of the texts over my shoulder. "She's not going to stop, you know," Amanda muttered. "She's desperate. I bet she didn't expect you to blow up her secret like that." "Good," I snapped. "Let her feel some of the humiliation I did. I can't talk to her right now. I don't even know what I'd say that wouldn't just be yelling." Amanda gave a sympathetic nod. "Take your time. You don't owe her a damn thing. Let her sit in the mess she made." A knock on the door made both of us jump. I frowned, glancing at Amanda. "Expecting anyone?" I asked. She shook her head, heading over to peek through the window. "It's Laura," she whispered, her face tense. I froze, a wave of nausea hitting me like a freight train. I didn't want to see her, not now. Not ever. Amanda shot me a questioning look, and I just shook my head. She hesitated, then opened the door just a crack. "What are you doing here, Laura?" I couldn't hear Laura's reply, but Amanda's tone stayed firm. "He doesn't want to see you. You need to leave." More muffled pleading, Laura's voice breaking. Amanda glanced back at me, her expression a mix of pity and frustration. "He's not talking to you. You made your bed, now deal with it," Amanda snapped. Laura's voice grew desperate. "Amanda, please. Just let me explain to him. I made a mistake. I can fix this." I couldn't take it anymore. I got up and walked to the door, pushing it open. Laura's eyes widened when she saw me, red and swollen from crying. "Dave," she gasped. No. I cut her off sharply. "I don't want to hear your excuses. You lied to me. You humiliated me in front of everyone. You ruined everything." She broke down sobbing, trying to reach for me, but I stepped back, keeping my distance. "Please, just hear me out," she begged. "It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking straight. I was lonely and ill." "Stop," I barked. "I don't want to hear your sob story. You weren't thinking? You made a choice, Laura. Over and over again. You chose him. You chose to betray me. Now live with it." She sank to her knees, sobbing harder than I'd ever seen her cry. "I was stupid. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please, Dave, I love you." "Love?" I scoffed. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have lied, cheated, and then tried to make me feel like I was the problem." You've been lying for months. You're not sorry you did it. You're just sorry you got caught. Her face crumpled as she reached out again, but I pulled back. It's over, Laura. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. I'll contact a lawyer and we'll handle the divorce. Just leave me alone. She opened her mouth to protest, but Amanda stepped forward, her expression fierce. You heard him. Get out. Laura hesitated, looking at me with pleading eyes, but I didn't move. Slowly, she rose to her feet, wiping her eyes with trembling hands. I'm sorry, she whispered one last time before turning and walking down the steps, shoulders slumped. Amanda shut the door firmly and let out a shaky breath. That was brutal. Had to be, I muttered, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. She needed to hear it. Amanda put a hand on my shoulder, her eyes full of empathy. You did the right thing. You deserve better than that. I nodded, trying to absorb her words. Maybe someday I'd believe it. Right now, I just felt empty, like everything I'd ever worked for had been shattered. But at least it was out in the open. At least I wasn't being played anymore. I sank back onto the couch, feeling the exhaustion weigh me down. I knew this was just the beginning, the legal mess, dividing our stuff, cutting her out of my life. It wasn't going to be easy, but I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I'd pick up the pieces, no matter how long it took. The days that followed were a blur of paperwork, phone calls, and countless sleepless nights. I'd contacted a lawyer the morning after Laura's pathetic attempt to explain herself. Just hearing her sob through the door was enough to make me sick to my stomach. I didn't care about her excuses anymore. Nothing could change what she'd done. Amanda stayed close, checking in every day, making sure I was eating and not just drowning in my own misery. I appreciated it more than I could say, but the truth was, I still felt like a shell of myself. The anger had faded into a deep, gnawing emptiness that I couldn't shake off. Even after I served Laura the divorce papers, I felt no relief, just a heavy, aching void where my life used to be. One evening, a few days after that chaotic night, I was sitting on Amanda's couch with my laptop, going through financial records to figure out what was joint and what wasn't. I heard the front door open and close, and Amanda appeared with a couple of takeout bags, giving me a tired smile. I brought Chinese, she said, setting the food on the table. Figured you probably haven't eaten. I forced a smile. You figured right. She sat down next to me, handing me a container of orange chicken. Any news from your lawyer? Yeah, I muttered between bites. Laura's agreed to the divorce. She didn't even try to fight it. Just signed the papers and sent them back. Amanda raised an eyebrow. That's surprising. I thought she'd put up a fight. Me too, I admitted, swallowing down a lump in my throat. Maybe she knows it's pointless. Or maybe she just doesn't care enough to bother. Amanda gave me a sympathetic look. Maybe she's just finally realizing the consequences. Either way, good riddance. You deserve someone who actually appreciates you. I couldn't help but scoff. Yeah, well, I'm done trying to figure her out. I've wasted enough of my life on someone who didn't give a damn. That's the spirit, Amanda said with a grin, nudging me with her elbow. You'll get through this, Dave. You're stronger than you think. After we finished eating, Amanda started cleaning up while I kept going through some old photos on my laptop. There was one from last year, me and Laura at a beach party, laughing like idiots while some guy photobombed us. I stared at it for a moment before closing the folder. Those memories didn't mean anything anymore. They were just lies wrapped up in pretty pictures. Amanda came back into the living room and plopped down next to me, her face serious. You know, you're allowed to grieve, she said softly. I know, I replied, avoiding her gaze. But I'm just so tired of feeling like this. I keep thinking about everything I did for her, everything I sacrificed. And for what? A slap in the face. She put a hand on my shoulder. You didn't deserve it. And nothing you did cost it. She made her choices. You just happened to be the one who got hurt by them. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I noticed how much she'd been there for me, through every meltdown, every sleepless night. She didn't have to take care of me like this, but she did. I couldn't help but feel grateful and maybe a little guilty for leaning on her so much. You're a good friend, I mumbled, giving her a small smile. She smirked. Yeah, well, someone's got to keep your sorry ass alive. For the first time in days, I actually laughed, a real, genuine laugh. It felt foreign, but good. Amanda smiled back, looking relieved to see me finally crack a smile. You know, she said, her tone softer, it's okay to be angry. You loved her. You trusted her. And she shattered that trust. You don't have to be strong all the time. I sighed, leaning back into the couch. I just don't know who I am without her. I built so much of my life around our relationship. Now that it's gone, it's like I don't know how to move forward. Amanda was quiet for a moment before she spoke. You're still you, Dave. You're the same guy who helped me move apartments 3 times because I kept changing my mind. The guy who fixed my car at midnight when it broke down in the middle of nowhere. You're still that guy. Laura didn't take that away from you. Her words hit me hard, like a punch to the gut. Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd been so wrapped up in the idea of being Laura's husband that I forgot who I was without that title. Before I could say anything, my phone buzzed with another message. This time it was from Laura's mom. I'm so sorry for everything, Dave. We never knew she was capable of this. Please know that we still care about you. I read it a few times, trying to process how I felt. Anger? Sadness? Relief? I wasn't sure anymore. Amanda peered at the screen. She's right, you know. Everyone who knows you is on your side. Even her parents. That's got to count for something. I nodded, feeling a little lighter. Yeah, it does. We sat in silence for a while, the tension finally easing out of my body. Amanda glanced at me, hesitating for a moment before speaking. You know, when you're ready, you'll be able to move on. It doesn't seem like it now, but you will. And I'll be right here when you do. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I felt something shift inside me, like the weight wasn't as heavy as before. Thanks, Amanda, I said quietly. She smiled, brushing her hair behind her ear. Anytime. Later that night, after Amanda had gone to bed, I found myself sitting outside on her porch, just staring at the stars. I wasn't sure how long I sat there, just breathing in the night air and trying to piece together the fragments of my life. But for the first time since it all came crashing down, I didn't feel completely crushed. I knew I had a long way to go. Divorce wasn't the end of the pain. It was just the beginning of starting over. But maybe, just maybe, there was something better waiting on the other side of all this. I just had to keep pushing forward, one day at a time. And as I looked up at the vast, dark sky, I made a quiet promise to myself. I wouldn't let Laura's betrayal define me. I wouldn't let it break me. I was going to rebuild, stronger than before. It had been a month since that night at Laura's parents' house, and things were slowly starting to make sense again. The divorce was moving along quicker than I'd expected. Laura didn't contest anything, almost like she knew she'd lost every shred of respect from everyone around her. I didn't care why. I just wanted it over with. The day I signed the final papers, I felt a strange emptiness, but also a hint of relief. Amanda was by my side when I walked out of the lawyer's office, giving me a reassuring pat on the shoulder. It's done, she said softly, her eyes watching me carefully. Yeah, I replied, exhaling slowly. It's finally done. She gave me a small smile. You want to grab a drink? Celebrate or something? I thought about it and nodded. Yeah, that sounds good. We ended up at a little dive bar down the street, a place we used to hit up with friends back in the day. It was nearly empty, just a couple of regulars hunched over the counter. Amanda ordered a couple of beers and we sat at a booth in the corner. She raised her glass, giving me a playful smirk. To freedom. I chuckled, clinking my glass with hers. To new beginnings. We sipped our drinks in comfortable silence for a moment before she spoke again. How do you feel? I shrugged. Like I'm waking up from a long nightmare. It still doesn't feel real, but I'm glad it's over. I'm glad I'm not in that mess anymore. She nodded, her eyes softening. You deserve better, Dave. You know that, right? I guess I do, I admitted, feeling the truth of it settle into my bones. I just kept thinking that I could fix things, that maybe I could save us. But she didn't want to be saved. She made her choice. Amanda set her glass down and leaned forward. You tried everything, Dave. You gave her chances, and she took advantage of every single one. That's on her, not you. I looked into Amanda's eyes, realizing how much sense she made. I had been carrying guilt around like it was mine to bear when in reality, it had never been my burden to hold. Laura was the one who chose betrayal, and I was done feeling responsible for her mistakes. A slow, unexpected smile crept across my face. You know, for the first time in weeks, I actually feel okay. Amanda's smile widened. See? You're stronger than you think. You just needed to see it for yourself. We finished our drinks and left the bar, walking through the quiet streets, the chill of the evening air nipping at my skin. We didn't say much, just enjoyed the silence and the feeling of something new blossoming between us. I couldn't deny it anymore. I felt something whenever I was around her, something I hadn't felt in a long time. When we got back to her place, she hesitated at the door, looking at me with a thoughtful expression. Do you want to come in? I looked at her, my heart beating faster than it should. Yeah, I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. I do. Inside, the room was dimly lit, and I could smell the faint scent of lavender from one of her candles. She closed the door behind us, and suddenly the air felt thick with unspoken tension. I wasn't sure what to do, if I should say something, make a move, or just pretend this was normal. Amanda saved me the trouble by stepping closer, her hand reaching up to touch my face. You know, she whispered, her eyes locked on mine. I've watched you break yourself trying to be the perfect husband. You never deserved what she did to you. I swallowed hard, the warmth of her hand on my cheek sending a shiver through me. I thought love meant giving everything. Her thumb brushed against my skin gently. It does. But love also means being valued in return. Before I could respond, she leaned in and pressed her lips to mine, soft and warm and filled with a tenderness I hadn't felt in years. I kissed her back, hesitant at first, but then it deepened, and all the pain and frustration melted away in that single moment. We pulled apart, both of us breathing a little heavier. Amanda's cheeks were flushed, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she kept her forehead pressed against mine. Is this okay? She whispered, almost afraid to break the spell. I smiled, brushing her hair back. More than okay. We ended up on the couch, just talking and holding each other, the weight of the past slowly fading into the background. I told her about the things that still hurt, the things that made me feel stupid and broken, and she listened without judgment. It felt good. No, it felt right. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't carrying the world on my shoulders. In the days that followed, Amanda and I spent more time together, and it wasn't long before our friendship transformed into something deeper. It wasn't rushed or forced, just a natural progression that felt easy and comforting. She never pushed me, just gave me space when I needed it and a listening ear when I wanted to talk. I found a new apartment a few weeks later, nothing fancy, just a small one-bedroom place with enough space to start over. Amanda helped me move my stuff in, and when we finished, we sat on the floor eating takeout and laughing about how badly I assembled the couch. I knew healing wasn't going to be quick or easy, but I wasn't doing it alone anymore. Amanda made me feel like I wasn't just some broken man trying to piece himself back together. She made me feel alive, like I had something worth fighting for again. One evening, after a long day at work, I got a message from Laura's mom. I heard about your new place. I'm happy for you. You deserve happiness. Just know we still think of you as family. I sent a simple reply. Thank you. I appreciate that. Take care. I didn't feel anger anymore. Just acceptance. Laura was a chapter in my life that was closed for good. As I stood on the balcony, watching the sun dip below the city skyline, Amanda joined me, wrapping her arms around my waist. I pulled her close, resting my chin on her head. You okay? She asked softly. Yeah, I replied, kissing the top of her head. I'm more than okay. She smiled up at me, her eyes filled with that familiar warmth. Good. You deserve it. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally free. Free from the lies, the hurt, and the betrayal. Free to build something new, something real, with someone who actually cared. And as I held Amanda close, I knew that despite the pain of the past, I was going to be all right. I'd been shattered, but I wasn't broken. I was moving forward, stronger, wiser, and with a new sense of purpose. This time, I was going to love without fear, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that from me again.